Hello and welcome back to Serendipity Intended. My name is Tracy Ann. I am so glad that you are here today. It is almost the last week of June, and I am super excited because it is almost time for Junk Journal July. I've been doing Junk Journal July for a number of years, and I think actually just yesterday, Creativity and Coffee has been doing the prompts for a year or two. She released the most recent prompts, printed them out. Now this is 75% because it'll fit better in the journal that I'm going to make. But she released the prompts. I'm super excited. And so I'm going to make a journal. Now, this journal is, I'm going to do the prompts for Junk Journal July, but it is also going to be kind of my summer journal. So it'll be a creative journal. It'll also be a place to kind of capture things, particularly my vacation, but also any of the other things that happen in the summer. And so that's kind of where I am. I pulled some digitals that I had, and they're from a couple of sources, but and just some stuff that I had. So I pulled together some pages, and I've got little bits and pieces kind of paper clipped in where I think I might use them. It's only going to be one signature. I don't anticipate that I'm going to be doing that much, and I do want some room to put stuff in. I actually had a few other pages and then decided that I had too much going on and it wasn't going to fit. So this is just 8.5 by 11 paper folded long ways. I decided I wanted to do a tall skinny journal this summer. So quickly, these are the kind of the pages that I picked out and some of the bits and bobs that I already have in place. So again, these are mostly digitals that I've just printed two-sided. Another digital, the little card and some paper, more digitals. This is just the back of the paper, so right now it's white, and I will do something with that. I just thought this card was cute and it sort of fit the colors. And I don't want to stay with the sort of pinks and oranges and corals, even though those predominantly the colors in the digitals right now. Kind of want to do a fun summery kind of vibe. But the kit that I purchased was mostly those colors, and so a lot of that, didn't do a very good job of gluing these two papers together. A lot of what was in the kit were those colors, so that's definitely the majority, and then I will just add to as I go along. So fun fish, and this was left over from my last trip, but it related to the beach, so I thought maybe I would include that there. And then so that's it for sort of the base journal. And then I had just some other bits and bobs that I pulled to kind of use. So I'm going to set those aside. But my journal needed a cover so that I could keep it protected. And I thought I would try something that I've not before, although I've seen a lot of videos, and that is to use an Amazon mailer. And so that is what I'm going to use. And this was actually a valance that I found when we were going through an antique shop in Maine last summer on our vacation. And somewhere on here is the price. Oh, here it is. So yeah, they had this, it was a 66-inch valance, and they had it marked down for $2. And so yeah, I got all of this fabric for $2, and I thought it's not necessarily beachy, but I thought the colors worked really well. And that this would be kind of a good starting point for my journal. So I'm going to definitely use this to cover the outside. I did decide to really fast forward this section of making the journal. There are tons of videos out there that really do a much better job of explaining how to do this. And really the point is not, for me, constructing the journal itself. But suffice it to say, I took this Amazon packaging and it turned out to be almost exactly the right height. Just needed to trim a little bit off of the edge. So I did that. And then once I trimmed off the edge, I looked at it a little bit further and decided that I probably needed to cut some off the bottom as well because I just felt like the overlap was a little bit too much. So I went ahead and did that as well. There's no real set rules to how much of an overhang to have. I like to have a little bit because I tend to have things extend beyond the page and I want my cover to protect them. I also toyed briefly with leaving the back open and making it kind of a pocket, and then decided that was probably a little bit more elaborate than I needed. And since I was predominantly going to be working at this at my desk, I didn't really need to have extra storage anywhere. So I found that fabric that you just saw briefly last summer on vacation at an antique store. It's about a 66-inch long valance, and I got it for $2, which I thought was quite a steal. So I did decide that I wanted to reinforce the spine with some book tape. So I was kind of toying with the idea, just in case it was visible, which it ended up not really being, but just in case it was visible, I wanted to make sure that it was something that made sense. So I ended up going with the sort of brown color instead. I did go ahead, I don't tend to be one for doing a whole lot of fussy measuring, but I did decide to go ahead and at least mark the center of the tape so that I stood a chance of getting it reasonably centered on the cardboard. And so that ended up being my foundation. And then I needed something. I was originally going to do paper and then decided to do fabric. I grabbed this old towel that I had. It's sort of worn and stained, but it also kind of felt sort of beachy, summery, just with the stripes. So I decided to use that. I probably should have pressed it and didn't because it was too much effort. And in retrospect, it's probably a little bit more stained and dingy than it really should have been. It is clean, it's just really old and worn. But it was what I had and it was enough fabric. And again, I'm not making a pristine work of art. I'm just making a journal to play in. I did decide that all the strings that came off when I tore the edges made an absolutely perfect fiber stash to use on the inside of the journal. Now I did decide to go ahead and sew the edge or the fabric down to the envelope, but I also wanted to make sure that it didn't scooch completely. So I did use a little bit of fabric glue underneath, not a lot. I didn't want to end up with obvious glue marks, and I really wasn't concerned with gluing the whole thing down. Really just trying to get it to stay in place until I got it sewed. And so that's what I was doing here. In retrospect, and just as a tip for anybody else, I wouldn't put the glue all the way on the edge like I did. It ended up, I sewed it before it was completely dry, and it ended up getting glue on my needle, which I'm mad at myself about. So don't do what I did. And then I did trim the top off with scissors rather than tear it, just because I'd already glued it down and I wanted to make sure it didn't tear off too far. But yeah, there we go. I've got the inside done, and I was thinking about doing some kind of a fabric pocket, and I'm thinking now would be the time to put that in so that when I sew, I can get it in place where I want it to be. So let me go grab what I have in mind. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my cover fabric here just so that I have that cover reference. So I have this little tub of fabric scraps. They're actually from a friend of mine who is a theatrical costume designer. He had all of these fabric samples. Sorry, I'm literally doing battle with this lid right now. He had all these fabric samples that, you know, from various shows that he did, and he gave them to me so generously. So I'm going to go through and pull some things that I think could make a fun pocket, and then we'll audition what I've got and pick something. Okay, so I have the fabric from the outside. The more I look at this fabric, the less I am in love with it. But it is what it is. I did grab this doily because I thought maybe I could stitch this on and kind of help hide some of what I don't like. So I'm gonna set that there, and then the pocket, and then I think it'll be okay. And if the back is a little icky, then that's okay because it's the back. So if I have, you know, this going on the outside, and actually let me think, I'm gonna probably use, let me find it. I'm gonna use this end. Apologies, I'm refolding the fabric. So I'm thinking that this is going to be the outside, right? So these are kind of the colors that I'm working with. So whatever I choose needs to work with that. So I found a whole bunch of things here, some that have additional colors, some that are similar colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to audition things really quickly. And the way that I audition things is I put them down and I decide, does it interest me or not? And then I move on to the next thing. And that definitely interests me, so I'll hang on to that. And then I've got this brown one, which I thought would be nice with this. And that also interests me. And then I grabbed this blue, which sort of interests me. I'll hang on to it for now. And then another floral, which I'm not as happy with this one as I thought it would be. So that's a no. And then I grabbed some pinks. Okay, I really do kind of like the pink, so we'll save that. And oh, I like that one as well. I don't know how these even got in there because they're just too small. Then there's this one, which I also sort of like. This one I think is too mousy. And a little pink stripey ding, 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 ding. No, I'm not liking it. This is totally wrong. Then I grabbed a green just for something different. Introduce another color. And I don't know how I feel about that. So that's going to be a no. And then a slightly different green. I just think style-wise, that's really wrong. It doesn't feel beachy at all. Okay, now oddly, this sort of, I kind of like this too, so I'll hang on to that. And then the last one that I pulled was this, and that's definitely a no. Okay, so I kind of like all of these with the cover. Now, because this is going to be the inside cover, and this is going to be also on the inside cover, I also want to pick something that makes sense with this So I'm going to add this in and then audition them once again. I'm going to start with this blue one. And again, I kind of like that. And then I feel like that almost overpowers this one a little too much, so we'll get rid of that. And the brown. I do still like the brown. And then this one, very different feel. I think I like this one better than the other floral because it's mostly muted. And this is really sturdy, which would make for a good pocket. I'm going to hang on to that for now. I like that, but I don't think I like it as much. Do I like this one better or this blue one? I think get rid of that blue one. Keep this one for now. I'm liking that less, so we'll just get rid of that. And then the last one I have, oh, I do kind of like that pink. Okay, so I've narrowed it down to 4. And try these again. I could also do one in the front and one in the back, which is also an option that I may go with. I feel like this one is not gonna, it's too style specific. Okay, I like all 3 of these with this. This one probably the least out of all of them. Although I do sort of like it with the back. Maybe that could be a back pocket. So do I like this one better or this one better? You know what? I think just because there's so much pink in this and I'm trying to add in things that aren't pink, I think I'm gonna hang on to this as possibly something to use in the journal. But I think this is the winner for this pocket. And let me at least pretend that I'm somewhat cleaning up here. I like this and this together. I think this makes sense with the outside cover. And then this kind of is an interesting pocket for the back of this journal. And I also, let's get this tag off of here, this tape off, as well as all these extra threads that it has accumulated from. So if I do this one this way, and then, so I could literally just stitch this on here and then do that way. And then we would have this sitting in here with a little bit of a pocket, and then back here, I sort of like that kind of scrappy look. And then this would be the back side. Okay, I'm actually super happy with this. So I think I'm gonna do is, I probably should pin this. But I'm gonna not. I'm just gonna go and sit down and sew it and see what happens. I will be back. Okay, so the good news, that went fairly well. It did get a little mucked up here, but I don't think you'll be able to see that once I put the signature in. So that's good. The bad news is I ran out of threads. The tension got a little wonky here. I think it'll be okay, but it definitely got a little wonky. And I don't have any more thread. So I can't finish. My original thought was to sew around this to keep it in place, and I still think I want to do that, but I'm also thinking it might be kind of fun to leave a little bit of this open so that I can tuck something inside of there, like, I don't know, maybe a pen or something. Just as, I don't know. The jury's still out on that, but oh, I cannot finish this because I am out of thread. So in the meantime, what I think I am going to do is, since I can't finish stitching it anyway today, I'm going to use some of the fabric tack to just tack this doily down a little bit better, kind of around the edges here. And tomorrow, yeah, I think I'm going to leave that open for now. Tomorrow I can go and buy some thread and then be able to finish tacking this down. I suppose I could hand stitch it, but I think especially if I'm going to use it as a pocket, I might be better off sewing it on. So yeah, and then because of that, I can't actually use or do this just yet because I want to be able to sew these pieces on and then put this fabric cover on. So for now, I'm just going to have to push pause and pick this up tomorrow. Okay, I'm back. It is another day. I still have not been to the store to get thread, but I did find a spool of thread that I typically use for hand quilting, but I decided it would work, and it did. So I've gone ahead and sewn this doily on to the page. I did decide that I was not going to leave a pocket. I was just going to sew the whole thing closed, and so yeah, I'm good with that. For the moment, I'm going to leave this thread here because I think I don't know, I like the loose threads look, so I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to move these bits and bobs out of the way. Excuse me. So now that I have the inside done, I need to tackle the outside. I did finish cutting out the fabric yesterday, and I did glue down the edges just so that they would be in place. And yeah, so now I just need to sew them on. And I think what I'm going to do is, rather than use pins, I'm going to do two things. One, I'm going to use a little bit of fabric glue on the inside, just to tack down the center part, and I'm not going to put a ton of glue on. I'm just going to put a little bit, just to sort of spot hold it, and kind of keep it in place. I'll smooth that out a bit, and then I'm going to, that's pretty even. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use these paper clips to kind of hold things in place, and then just take the paper clips out as I go around. And then that way, I feel like the, because of the packing on the inside, it might be a little bit much to try and put a pin through it. It might be too difficult and also kind of tough as I'm sewing to take the pin out. So I'm just gonna use paper clips to kind of help hold it in place, keep it from squidging around. These are supposed to all be large paper clips, and they're not. Some of them were the small size. So go ahead and, okay, now that I've got this glued in the center and clipped around the outside, I'm going to go ahead and stitch this, and then I will be right back. And there we go. I've stitched around the outside, and so now I have, complete with lots of loosey-goosey threads, I have my cover sewn and here in place. And yeah, so there it is. And then of course my signature will fit just inside of there like that. And I have my little book, which I'm really excited about. So now I need to decide if I want to do anything else with the cover before I bind it, or if I'm good to go ahead and bind it. I did have a thought, and once again I need to go grab something, so give me just a moment. I'll be right back. Okay, and I'm back. So my thought was, I've seen journals before where in addition to maybe using a doily like this on the inside, they've used it on the outside as a way to sort of decorate. And so I want to play with that first and see whether or not I like that idea, and then kind of go from there. So I grabbed a couple of doilies. This one is kind of a larger version with a little bit darker thread to the one that's already here, so I thought that one would be nice. And then this is kind of a twin of the version that's here. And then I thought this one was kind of fun because it's sort of like a half shell, so it's straight on this end, and then it's got the rest of the crochet. And then this one's rectangular, and I really do sort of love this one as well. So I thought I'd play with all of these. So the first one is this sort of large oversized version, and so it would definitely, if I used it, kind of wrap around that way. You know what, while that's pretty, it hides too much of the front cover. So this for me is definitely a no. And then the mini version, if I did that, I'm thinking maybe this spot down here would be kind of pretty, and that's sweet and would definitely tie in to the front cover. So that's a definite possibility. I'll set that one aside as potentially a keeper. Now this one with the straight edge, it's too large to go here, but it certainly could kind of wrap around. You know, while that's pretty, it just doesn't do anything for me. It just seems sort of extra, so that is going to go. And then this one, I do like the lighter against here. And what I actually was thinking was that it could be kind of fun to almost let it be a bit of a hinge, like so. And that, again, that's pretty, and I love the idea of using it this way, but I'm not for this journal. So the only one that kind of feels like a possible option is this one here. And I'm not 100% sure that I'm sold on that idea. So I don't think we're gonna add it right now. I think I'm just gonna keep it with my stash of things to use, and just do that later. And so now I'm going to bind this into my journal, and I'm going to use a 3-hole pamphlet stitch to do that. There's tons of videos on that. I'm not going to film that process here. You can search for something if you'd like, but I'm just gonna pause here and then come back once I've got the journal bound in. And here we go. So all stitched in, and so it's a little bit loose, but I think that'll be okay. So I now have a bound journal, and all my pages are there and ready to go and secure, and I'm super excited to get started. The last thing that I need to do, because it's a new journal and it's already fairly stuffed, is it does want to pop open. And so I always like to have something to tie the journal closed. And actually, let me zoom this out a bit. It feels really super wide. That's probably too much. There we go. Okay, adjust my camera here a bit. I'm sorry. There. So I have a bunch of Sari Silk, and I'm thinking pink. So I grabbed various shades that I thought would coordinate, and I'm just gonna play. So I've got some, oh, very long piece. So I've got some solid, that is super pretty. I love the contrast. I love that it pulls out the orange, so that's a maybe. Then more of a neutral one, which I also like, but it doesn't feel summery. So even though I like this, I'm gonna set it aside as a no. Then I've got just a paler pink, which is pretty, but again, not summery. And then I grabbed a couple that were patterned. So this one I think is gorgeous, and I like that it has some other colors. That also is a maybe. And this one also has other colors. It's a little bit more purpley pink. I don't think it works. Then I've got this one that is mostly brown with a little bit of green, and I do love that. It's a little more neutral, but it feels kind of boho and beachy, so I'm gonna put that in the maybe pile. And then this one is kind of orange with some blues, and ooh, I do like that one. So now what I'm gonna do, just again to sort of try them out, is I'm going to just put them on all together and see, kind of comparing them, which one I like the best. So with the fabric that is here, and then this sort of peachy one. The good thing is I'm not attaching this, so I can always change my mind, but I do want to at least start with something. Okay, so I've got these three here, and I need to kind of decide what I'm going to at least start with. And you know what, even though I really do like this boho look, I wanted something brighter and more summery, so I'm gonna keep this one as potentially something to use on the inside, but it's not my favorite for the outside. And even though I do like this, I'm kind of liking the idea of some additional pattern, so I'm also going to take this one out of the running. And that leaves me with kind of the hot pink look of this one, or the sort of more orangey look of this one. And they both have some other colors going on. They both have a little bit of yellow-ish, and they both have a shade of blue, although they're slightly different. As I'm looking at the two with everything else that's going on, I think I'm feeling like this one is maybe the better pick. I'm gonna go with the orange, which was the last thing that I thought I was going to do. But as I'm looking at it, I'm sort of low-key loving it. Okay, so yeah, there we go. I think that is sort of fun and summery, and I still do have my stash of goodies here that I can use within my journal. And I also have my prompts, which I did go ahead and back with this card because I thought it looked really nice. There we go. I've got my prompts, I've got my stash, and I've got my journal. I'm ready for Junk Journal July. I hope that you are as well. And until July, thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you make a great day. Bye.